That is a picture of me in the Atacama Desert, and there's no pictures of me without my hair blowing. So each of you has a story, perhaps even a journey, about how you came to be here tonight. And as I'm talking, I want you to think a little bit about that story, and I'm going to share my story with you. In the early 90s, I was living in the Bay Area with my husband, Will, who was president of a startup, and our son, William, who was a toddler. And I was working, as Paul said, in high-tech marketing. And as is often the case with young mothers, a friend said to me, "So Janet, if you didn't have to work, would you keep working?" And without even thinking about it, I said, "Yes, but I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now." And you know, I was really good at what I was doing, so I was probably the most surprised by my answer. And I took some time to think about it. Why didn't I want to be doing what I was doing? What did I want to do? And I realized that, you know, I'm really not that interested or passionate about technology. I hate to say that in this crowd. I don't care what type of computer I have. I just want it to work reliably, and some of you know that my computer has completely crashed right now and doesn't work at all. I don't care what type of cell phone I have, I just want it to work. So, you know, as I said, Will was working in a startup. I had to keep working, but I spent some time asking myself, so what am I passionate about? What do I want to do? Where do I want to spend my time? So a year or so later, the town we were living in put a school bond levy on the ballot. And I went to the grocery store, and there, in front of the Safeway, were the young parents picketing the older retired people, literally, with signs back and forth in front of each other. And the young parents, of course, wanted to have better schools and education for their kids. And the older retired people, who were probably on fixed incomes, didn't want their property taxes raised. And I looked at this and I thought, this is so broken. I just couldn't believe it. The young parents and the grandparents picketing each other literally in front of the Safeway. So I got really, really angry at those older retired people, and not all old retired people, but the ones by that Safeway, because you know what? Someone had paid for their schools and their education, and someone had paid for their kids' schools and their kids' education. And some of those guys were probably old enough that they went to college on the GI Bill, so someone had paid for their college. And they were like breaking the system. They didn't want to pay for the generation going forward. They broke the contract. And I was really angry because education, as Chris has said, is the most important thing that we can do for our community. So I went home, I made dinner, and Will came home from work, and I'm telling him about the young parents and the grandparents picketing each other, and I was going on, and the system is so broken, the system is so broken. And Will said, you know, Janet, I think we found something you're passionate about. So fast forward a few years, we moved from the Bay Area to Seattle. And moving is a good time to change. So I said, I'm not passionate about technology. I'm done with that. I'm going to do something else. And I'd really like to work with children in education. Now, of course, I'd never done anything in that field, didn't know anything about nonprofits. But I'm a good networker, so I started networking. And then I read an article in the newspaper. I'm pretty sure it was the Puget Sound Business Journal. And it described a group of professionals who wanted to pool their resources and work to help nonprofits that did things with children and education. And I thought, that sounds really interesting. I was so intrigued that I called the number in the article, and as you've probably figured out, it was Social Venture Partners. So I was very involved in the early years. I got really busy with some other things for a while, and I was more of a donor. And then probably about 7 years, I got very involved with SVP once again. So SVP got me started. I learned about grant making and fundraising. I learned about education and systems change. I learned about nonprofits. I even learned how to raise more compassionate children, because my kids both were involved with Social Venture Kids. My daughter's here tonight. And I really found my passion. Well, as Paul said, I'm a little bit crazy because I now serve on 8 nonprofit boards. And in fact, I actually mostly serve on 9 nonprofit boards. One is not considered a board because, as you heard, Bill Henningsgaard has recently asked me to join him with a new collective impact initiative in Bellevue. But that is another story. Glad to talk to any of you about it at any time. But it's also the best thing about SVP, that I've gotten to interact and work with and be friends with amazing people who not only want to make change, but actually take the steps, take the action to do so. I often think how lucky I was to have read that newspaper article. So I asked each of you to think about your story, about how you first learned about SVP, what your journey was. And I want you to think back to the first time you really heard about SVP. Not the emails that Paul sent you reminding you or just checking in every year, but the first time. I mean, how did Paul hear about you in the first place, right? So I'm going to take a little poll. If you heard about social venture partners like I did, through the media or a newspaper article, can you raise your hand? Okay, just a couple of you. If you heard about SVP from a partner, an investee, or a staff member, raise your hand. That's exactly what I thought would happen. Very cool. Okay, now, if you've ever talked to a friend or a colleague about social venture partners, perhaps invited them to a partner meeting or a prospective partner event, can you raise your hand? I want you to keep your hand up. You guys are all SVP ambassadors. You are helping to make our partnership stronger, and I want to thank you. Can we all give them a hand? One last question. If you're a prospective partner, can you raise your hand? Because I know we have lots of prospective partners here tonight. I just want to say welcome, and I hope that you join SVP and it becomes as important to your journey as it has been to mine. So what did we see here? We saw that partners beget partners. Most of us are here because someone we know and respect told us about social venture partners. So I joined the SVP board 2 years ago, and I learned that Paul had been doing almost all the recruiting. Well, Paul is great at recruiting, but he has other responsibilities, and there are only so many hours in the day. So I said to him, you know, Paul, I can help recruit. I'm a great networker. I know lots of people. I know lots of people who would be great partners. What I didn't know was that anybody wanted me to ask people to learn more about SVP. So I'm going to be very clear here with all of you tonight. We want you to be an SVP ambassador. We want you to talk about social venture partners to your friends and your colleagues and ask them to learn more. So I have a slide. I have one slide. So the SVP board decided that we would try to jumpstart and be very intentional about recruiting. And we came up with a very simple process that we followed to see about finding prospective partners. And literally, over one weekend, the 13 board members came up with 400 names. Since then, 44 of them have joined SVP, and we have more in the pipeline. Wow. So. We worked very hard to make it easy for ourselves and for you, okay? So we came up with this fascinating list of characters. They are not real people. There's just sort of persona that we have that will help you think about who you know and who makes a good partner. We found that when we asked our friends and colleagues to learn more about SVP, they were actually very flattered that we did. I want you to know you do not have to look for people who will join 8 or 9 boards. Most people are much better at saying no than I am. And you don't have to invite dozens of people. 1 or 2 is great. We have tools for you. At your place, at the table, there's an ambassador, a little brochure that says being an SVP ambassador. That gives you information on the process we use and a link to our intranet site. And on the intranet site, we have sample emails that you can cut, copy, and customize to send to your friends and colleagues. And the emails are organized around these persona here, so they're already really customized for you. We are holding prospective partner events at different partners' homes every 4 to 6 weeks, so you can invite people to them. And you'll also see on the table there are little stickers that say, "Ask me about SVP." Those are there to put on your phone or your Kindle or your water bottle, just to be conversation starters and just because it seemed like a fun thing to do. So take a couple of those home with you. And I want to finish by saying we are not growing the partnership just to grow the partnership, but because we are better together. If more people join SVP, our network will be broader and deeper and stronger. And if more people join SVP, the impact we have on our investees and on our community and on each other will be that much greater. Remember, this is our partnership. Let's make it better together. Thank you.